as we welcome in Maddie McQueen, Matt George, host of the Locked On Kings podcast, which you can find here on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast from. Fresh off a weekend of pissing virtually everybody off, but you said you had a fun game to start the conversation. So what do we got here?
I like guys. So in honor of my heel turn, apparently, as a Sacramento Kings media member, now that I'm evil and hate everybody and I'm a Kings hater, I thought it would be fun to have a little guessing game because the NBA, or rather WWE 2K22 roster and ratings just came out. And I'm curious who you guys think there's a top three, and then there's three others tied for number four in terms of overall ratings. But I'm curious, with a 95, who you think the number one overall rated wrestler is in this WWE
Roman.
game?
It's got to be Roman.
Okay, 100%. Who's 94?
Is it Brock?
Yeah,
100%. I
don't. Interesting. Number three is interesting.
Number three. Now, I kind of spoil it with a hint. Not on an active. This guy's not on the active roster.
So I'm confused, Kenny. Do you know who it is?
No, I don't know.
Oh, you said number three is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking active roster. I don't know who would be third.
Not on the active roster.
Rock.
He's been in the news recently in WWE for a big reason, though.
Stone Cold?
It's not.
No.
Goldberg.
Nope. Think Hall of Fame.
He's
The Undertaker?
Taker, specifically the Ministry of Darkness version of the Undertaker, is 93 overall.
The Ministry of Darkness, that was like a satanic Undertaker. And that was a dark, crucifying people Undertaker.
If anything, the first Undertaker should be the highest rated.
The base Undertaker is like 90 overall. And then at a three-way tie at 92 overall, only one of these three is on the active roster currently.
Is Seth one, the active one?
Nope.
It's not Bobby. They never put Bobby.
They would never give Bobby Biggie or
Bobby's actually in 91. Bobby and Triple H are the same. 91.
Oh, for goodness sakes!
So is Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is also 91.
Who are the number threes?
Number three, the active roster is Becky Lynch.
Oh, okay.
And then John Cena and Stone Cold, both at 92.
Wow.
I can see that stuff. Not sure
okay.
Okay.
Triple H right now is on the same level as Bobby Lashley. You heard it here first, according to WWE 2K22.
I actually am very aware of why Becky is ahead of Bianca right now. But okay.
What is Bianca?
Yeah. Did you say who is Bianca?
No, what is Bianca at? She's at 87. Same level as Beth, or same rating as Beth Phoenix. One under Bailey.
One under Bailey. Wow.
Come for the Kings talk, stay for the wrestling ratings.
I will. I just want to say this. I just want to clarify this. I'm not going to say nothing about the Undertaker no more. I'm just going to say I understand. You know, he was great. It's almost like Bret Hart. Hey, it's just not my bag. Like I never have the level of reverence for the Undertaker that everybody else does.
I think it's the longevity that I think that's what like people appreciate is like he debuted at the Survivor Series in 1990, and he retired 2 years ago. I mean his act had been sketchy for a while, but I think it's more the longevity. I think that it's the greatest character. I think it's overall like the greatest story. Like even how they formed the character, The Undertaker, about how like the Undertaker's like character. I know people like his original name was Kane. It wasn't The Undertaker. They wanted to call him Kane. And then when they did the sketch drawings, they were like, Vince McMahon was like, he looks like one of those old Undertakers. So in his first television appearance, they called him Kane the Undertaker. And then by the time they got to the Survivor Series, it was the Undertaker. And then Kane comes back, 7 years later in the story, which I think is awesome. Overall, I think it's great. It's great. It's great stories.
I do
it's
too.
Awesome.
I think, but once you became the American Badass.
Not in the game.
All right.
American Badass Taker is not in the game.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Kane is he's 82, and Lana is the lowest rated at 71.
Well, Kane's got a whole host of problems right now that are far outside the realm, far outside his 2K rating.
This guy Taker just came out as just a regular person after all these years. Just all these years, he was, this phenom. And then he just, I ride motorcycles, American bat. You're a regular person now.
And then he went back to being the phenom. Right afterwards.
Maybe the most surprising, Mr. McMahon is a 76.
That's how old Mr. McMahon is, and apparently he's wrestling. Apparently he's wrestling at WrestleMania.
Oh my God.
So apparently he's wrestling Pat McAfee, but that's a story for later on. Why did you feel the need to piss everyone off this weekend?
I don't know. I didn't think what I said was that bad. Like everybody was.
I missed it. I didn't know you had everybody so upset. What'd you say?
So mainly it was what I said after the most recent Denver loss, but after the loss to the Nuggets, the first of the two in Sacramento, I, like so many other people, were critical of De'Aaron Fox basically disappearing in that game. Sabonis shined and Fox had a rough night, but I didn't bury him for it. I just said Fox needs to be better. Then what I guess pissed people off about this recent game is I said 3/4 of my tweet was, hey, I'll take a 26-point, 10-assist double-double from De'Aaron Fox every night of the week. Praise, praise, praise. And then at the very end, I put, if I'm being nitpicky, I think he faded a little bit too much in the fourth quarter. Like the Kings could have used him a little much. And apparently that pissed off my girl, Christina, and the rest of Kings Twitter came at me for now being a De'Aaron Fox hater and just choosing to focus on hating on De'Aaron Fox instead of the fact that the Kings played a good game.
So why do you hate De'Aaron Fox?
I'm a Tyrese Halliburton guy through and through. I actually bought a Pacers jersey, so
there it is.
Twitter's a interesting place.
I didn't think it was that bad. Like I was like, I'm what I'm saying is, I know some people are okay with the Kings losing right now because they're more interested in draft lottery odds and stuff like that. I get that. I know the players aren't thinking that way, and right now I'm looking at a team in a play-in race. That was a winnable game in Denver, and when the Kings needed him, instead it was the Harrison Barnes and Domantas Sabonis show and not the De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis show. So that's all I'm saying.
You are getting buried in the replies. The old replies. You're just getting absolutely buried in some of these. I didn't think it was that bad either, but I saw Christina's response and was like, hey, let's take a look at this. And Matt was dead to Kings fans.
I will admit I got myself off to a bad start during the first of the Denver games too, because I tweeted I'm wrong, but I tweeted saying I don't think Domantas Sabonis is the guy to take over a game. And then 20 minutes later, he had 26 points in the first freaking quarter or whatever the hell it was. I was like, okay, I'm an idiot. I'm wrong. So that got me off to a bad start. So then I turned my attention on De'Aaron Fox just to double down. And apparently everybody hated me for it. So.
You know what was really smart of you, though, in the midst of all of this, in the midst of the hate and the stupidity, you tweeted a picture of the baby.
Yeah,
and that is the quickest way to say, no, stop yelling at me. Look at my cute kid.
Yeah.
That's crafty, Matt. That's crafty work right there, pal.
Next level. It
didn't work for longer than about 20 minutes.
Well, it worked. It's just you tweeted against something the next day, and then
yikes!
You're running. No one's going to fall for the cute kid trick again.
So everything De'Aaron Fox does tonight versus Oklahoma City is going to get over the top praise to the point where it's going to be annoying. So prepare for it.
Well, you know what? Twitter, if you haven't already learned this, is a strange place, right? Because I think this was Friday or Saturday. I don't even know, but Tyrese Halliburton, I think he had a bad game. They lost to OKC, and he shoots a shot, airballs a three that would have tied it. And somebody, posted it, and I just responded. I said he's got to find another move other than that sidestep to the right. The entire league knows it's coming now. And then our guy Greg, gee whiz, said, I don't see Halliburton highlights as an indictment of the Kings, just as I don't see Halliburton lowlights to absolve the Kings. I think it's a bad way to evaluate the trade. Fam, I just said he tried a different move. It has nothing to do with the trade. Nothing. I didn't know
what the funny thing with Twitter is?
It's just the Twitter. I don't know. Everything isn't everything. How about that?
Just post a picture of your son. You'll be fine. Just post a picture of your son. You'll be good to go. It'll all fade away.
People read tweets like in their own verbiage, in their own tone. Like you could write, "Hey everyone, have a nice day," but someone will read it, "Hey everyone, have a nice day," and it's like, "Hey, F you too, man." Like, and then all of a sudden people see it as like this combative thing, and it's like, oh, I just meant the dude needs to get another move. But that's the wild world of social media.
The only time you could, read through that was, like I've mentioned before, LaMichael James. When LaMichael James would be like, yeah, they need to give me the ball more in third and short situations. Hashtag not about football. What, LaMichael? Everything I tweet isn't about football. Yeah, they need to make sure they have me more of a scat back. Hashtag not about football. What?
Man.
Okay, LaMichael.
Matt, we've spent a lot of time today talking about how important this next stretch of basketball is, not just for playing purposes, but it's one thing to go out there and I think the pit in the stomach of Kings fans is Kings play like they did these last two games versus Denver, and even going back to the game against Chicago tonight against Oklahoma City. They're winning this game by 25.
Mm-hmm.
No one thinks that's going to happen. Like we have no idea what's going to happen. We believe this is a different team. We believe, like, our eyes aren't deceiving us. What we're seeing on the floor is different than what we had seen earlier in the season. But I'd argue even more so than Chicago and more so than Denver. This is the game that's the true test against Oklahoma City.
That's an interesting perspective that I hadn't even thought about. Like, if the Kings come out and play the same way, and I'm not necessarily going to say wipe the floor with the Thunder, because I don't think that's fair, but if they beat the Thunder by playing close to the same level, specifically with the same intensity and effort as they played in that Chicago game and those two Denver games, with the exception of the fourth quarter of the first one, like, do we look at that as the biggest sign of progress with this team over the 2-0 start? To me, it is.
Seriously,
think about that.
It may very well be, because I mean, it would have been nice to beat Denver. It'd been foolish to expect to beat the Denver Nuggets, but when Kenny laid out the schedule last week, we were looking at this like, this is the biggest stretch, and you could talk about playing and all of that sort of different thing, but really in terms of determining what this team is, Oklahoma City tonight more so than anything, and then you've got San Antonio and New Orleans. Like, this is okay. Show us what you're about.
This is a stretch of games that you absolutely have to have for the play. And this is where, like, the fan base, I think, is most split now that we've kind of moved on from the Tyrese Halliburton trade. Is I see a lot of people, or I should say the vocal fan base, not the entire one, but I see a lot of people debating on social media, people debating with me in my comment sections on the Locked On Kings podcast, discussing, like, what is in the best interest of the Kings? What puts the Kings in the best place, right? Is it continuing to lose games and better draft lottery odds to maybe add a top 5 pick to this core of Fox and Halliburton? Or, in my opinion, the higher the draft pick, the more likely McNair is to trade it for probably something more of a veteran piece to add to the two of those. Is that the better route to go? Or is it better, and this is where I'm at, like, is it better for this Kings team to win right now with the expectation that they're winning because Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox are an obvious good fit together, and we have that knowledge going into this offseason? We know the two of them can work, and that gets us excited for next year. That's kind of where I'm at, but I can make arguments for and against both sides, and I have made arguments against the Kings trying to win right now, because if they make the play-in and lose, it's just NBA purgatory all over again. But if they make the play-in and lose, but they make the play-in, they go on a great stretch through the rest of this season because Sabonis and Fox are an obvious duo that can be successful. That probably, at least to me, has the most value for the Kings at this point in time.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean,
I agree.
I know I want to see them. I want to see them be successful with this group, even if that, and whatever results of that, results of it, right? Like, if they make the play-in, cool. If they miss it by a game or two, not cool. But at least we see that we know where we could go with this particular group, or where we hope to go, and you can make your plans in the offseason accordingly. If they don't play well, or to me, even worse, you tank, then you really have no idea what you're getting into next season and what moves need to be made. There's guys that need to be signed this offseason. You need to see them play, the DiVincenzo's, the Jeremy Lambs, decide what you want to do with Trey Lyles. You need to know what you're doing with this roster. And I just think you get a more accurate assessment, an idea of what you may be trying to do if you see these guys play and play at a high level.
What have you guys thought of Justin Holiday and Jeremy Lamb? Because I'm a huge fan of Justin Holiday, but Lamb has impressed me too, and I didn't have too high of expectations for him. I know he's an actual expiring deal, so I don't know what the Kings' plans are for him coming back next season, but Lamb has another year under his contract, which I'm thrilled about. I really like the two of them, how well they've played, and it's nice for the Kings to have a little bit of at least depth on the wing, even though Lamb is kind of more of a two.
I like them both also. I like the pedigree that Justin Holiday comes from. I will say this, though. I don't know what his role would be if Terrence Davis was here. And I think that would be an interesting question. Like you mentioned that he's an expiring, like a true expiring. And it's like, all right, cool. That's probably not one. Again, the pedigree, the level of basketball intelligence that he has. Like I love all of that about him. But I also, there are a lot of times where I'm watching this game. We can't cover a Kings game where you don't get messages, and I'm sure you're the same way of we need shooting. Yeah, Terrence Davis would be helpful. I would like to have seen Terrence Davis either have the chance to succeed or the chance to fail with this new version of the lineup. So that's a big question mark, I think, headed into next year is Terrence Davis in his role. I imagine Jeremy Lamb will be back. You mentioned his contract status, and I like the fit with him too. I don't think I see Justin Holiday back as much as I've enjoyed him. I don't think I see Justin Holiday back.
Did I get him mixed up? Is Lamb have one more year on his deal and Holiday is expiring?
I thought it was the other way around. I think Holiday has some type of option. I think Lamb is a fully free, unrestricted free agent.
Googling it now.
Well, let's just all sit here in silence.
While we Google that, I, like Damien, went to Christina's Twitter.
I like Christina a lot, but she was angry at me. She started talking about the narrative that I'm pushing, this anti-De'Aaron Fox narrative that all the Kings fans have picked up with pitchforks. I am apparently the leader of that now. Oh, and Justin Holiday is under contract next year for $6.29 million. So he's got one more year left on his deal.
Okay. So Jeremy Lamb is an unrestricted free agent this offseason.
I like Jeremy Lamb. I like what I've seen from him. And the question is, I think he's got the size to play small forward, but he's really a shooting guard. And now you kind of get into the same situation that you had, with all the guards here, because you said Terrence Davis is coming back. I'm pretty sure they're going to re-sign DiVincenzo. You got Davion, you got Fox. So is there any room for somebody like Jeremy Lamb? But then you get into another aspect of it is if Jeremy Lamb is a guy on your bench that, might not play or somebody gets hurt, he could step in. That's solid depth, right? So I don't know. I like to see him come back and just figure it out later, but not at the expense of using that money to get, real holes taken care of, like the power forward position or another small forward type guy.
To me, the clear indication of what Monte McNair still has to do this offseason is the fact that I can say confidently right now that the Kings have three absolute starters. They have Fox, they have Sabonis, and they have Harrison Barnes. Other than that, it's all fringe talent that I can make an argument for or against. And I don't think that's a recipe for success, to where I think minimum McNair has to have 4 absolute NBA starting caliber players going into next season, probably 5 if this Kings team expects to be the playoff team that we all expect them to be. I think that's where a lot of the work comes in, because as much as we like guys like Holiday, Lamb, Davis, DiVincenzo, I don't trust any of those 4 as of right now to be a starter on a good basketball team. So I think that's where a lot of you have kind of your big 2. You do have your big 2 in theory, unless you consider trading De'Aaron Fox this offseason. which now that's a narrative that I guess I'm pushing. So,
well, even if you did, you're getting back a big player. You're having a big two somewhere. If you're trading De'Aaron Fox, you're not. Again, much unlike what is reported, Tyrese Halliburton wasn't traded for cash considerations.
Right.
De'Aaron Fox wouldn't be either.
Yeah. So I just wonder what model the Kings more try to follow. Not that they're picking a specific team, but do they go more of the Chicago Bulls route where they made their version of the Nikola Vucevic trade, and then they land Alonzo Ball and they land specifically a DeMar DeRozan, which is a big ask because DeRozan's playing like an MVP right now. And they did it in a sign and trade. And we know the Kings free agency usually isn't that fortunate. They would probably have to use this year's and multiple draft picks to pull anything like that off. Or do they take more of the Memphis Grizzlies route of, okay, you have two really, really good players. Now just surround them with other players that fit well, play hard, and specifically play defense and space the floor. Like, I wonder which route McNair chooses to go.
I think to your point, though, I would want another shooting guard. I'd want a shooting guard that can defend and shoot from distance.
I don't know about the defense part, but Kenny, I think you and I are both going to be on the signing a petition to try and get Malik Monk to Sacramento here this offseason. I'm just saying, I would love Malik Monk to be a King.
Too. He's been struggling as of late, but
things are going. Malik Monk probably wishes he was in Sacramento. The way things are going right now.
You know who was on my radar when I said that, though? Is that boy Dylan Brooks. Make a deal.
I just don't see how you get him though.
Might have to overpay.
Okay.
I don't even know if you have the assets to overpay. I mean, Rashawn Holmes is the first thing that comes to my mind because the contracts match up. So, like, if you could do that straight up, you do it. But I don't know if Memphis would want to do that straight up.
Sass says you guys want to go get Cam Reddish or nah?
Well, Cam Reddish got to play yesterday. He looked fine, and then Tibbs didn't play him at all after that.
Of course he didn't. Why would he?
Kind of like Tibbs' fault.
Why would he?
Did y'all know that Carmelo Anthony leads the league in technical fouls this season? I had no idea, but I read that last night. Someone tied him for most technical fouls in the league, which was like 17 or so. Oh, it was Luka, I think.
I was just about to say, I didn't even know that stat, and I'm like, I bet you it's Luka.
Yeah, it was Luka and Melo. Luka tied Melo for the most text, which is hilarious because Melo doesn't play as much as I think we all thought he would with the Lakers. So
that's amazing. What do you do with Davion in all of this, though?
Ooh, that's a great question. I've been pleased still with, I think, like, Davion kind of faded into the background over the course of this season just because as good as he's been on defense, we either one got used to it or two, he was on such a bad defensive team anyway that never really was going to come to the forefront. And he still makes those defensive plays and has those moments that we've kind of gotten used to. And I'm not saying Dante DiVincenzo is on the same level, but we've even seen elements of DiVincenzo and whoever the hell I was talking about. Davion,
off white and off night. That's all right, buddy. We got you. We got you.
The two of them playing defense together, especially like with half court traps and things like that. But the growth for me of Davion Mitchell as a scorer and just an offensive player this season, I think has been significant. Now, he hasn't become a go-to scorer necessarily, but I think Davion Mitchell does a really, really good job at getting to his spots. And also the speed of Davion Mitchell is something that I didn't really know he had coming into this season. He's not at De'Aaron Fox levels, but when Fox was out and Mitchell was playing with Halliburton a lot, and even when Fox is out now and Halliburton's in, or rather Mitchell's in, Mitchell's looking to push the tempo. So I'm just looking for kind of more of the same from Davion and to continue to carve out that role as the go-to ball handler off the bench. If that's what he can be for the remainder of the season, I think that's a success for now. And maybe you see if you could potentially turn him into a starter. But again, he's another one of those fringe players for me.
Think you can make it through the night without pissing everybody off?
Absolutely not. If I didn't, I did my job wrong.
You don't piss me off, Matt.
Well, that's good.
Locked on Kings host Matt George. I'm sure a fresh new episode of the Locked on Kings podcast will drop after a Kings win tonight. At least that's certainly what we're hoping. Matt, thanks as always for joining us as you do each and every single week. Again, check out the Locked on Kings podcast here on the Odyssey app. Check on Locked on Kings podcast YouTube channel available here on YouTube as well. We'll come back.